So as some of you know, if you keep tabs on my life, aka follow me on Instagram or saw my community post on my channel, you'll know that I recently turned 26, officially late 20s. Yuck. Time is a construct. I'm gonna start telling people I'm still 22, so live in delusion, it's healthy. I posted on the community tab of my channel, which if you're not subscribed you wouldn't have seen, saying basically, hey, I'm an old bitch, do you want some advice? I have sage wisdom now in my 26 years, and I got so many questions, so I'm gonna try and work through some of these today. But before we begin, if you're new here, you can become a member of my channel and get access to things like priority shoutouts at the end of every video, a whole section of my channel that you can only access if you're a member, custom emojis and badges. I do random giveaways and discounts for my clothing brand Riff Supply Co, which is where you can get this sick crew neck as well as some t-shirts with this print on it, and a new hoodie, and a bunch of other stuff is on the website. That print in particular is of Burleigh Heads in the Gold Coast, which is where my studio is based, and you can pay $0 up front with Afterpay. All of that will be linked below. Let's just get cracking on these because there is so many. Pretty on topic, Leo H says, my niece wants to know what your inspirations are for creating clothes and if there's any big negatives in pursuing that type of career. I want to know what's happening with that fucking wooden spoon. The wooden spoon needs a sanding. It needs a sanding if you don't know what I'm talking about. I've taken up wood carving. I'm trying to make a spoon. It doesn't look like much at the moment. Did take out the tip of my thumb doing that. The spoon is not able to be utilized yet. We'll put it that way. It needs a good sanding and an oiling and needs to be carved into a spoon as well. So inspirations for creating clothes are literally just me looking at the things I want to wear and being like, how do I make something cool like that for Riff? That's it. All of the stuff that is on Riff's website is stuff that I at one point have wanted to wear. So I've just gone and made it. That's how the whole brand started from the get-go. I was printing t-shirts for myself and people asked for them. That was pretty much it. Any big negatives in this type of career? I have to do basically everything, like 99% of everything by myself. Any big decisions financially, creatively, anything is all on me. Social media and like e-commerce and having brands and that, very risky. You can put a lot of money into it and it might not go anywhere, so that's a risk you take all the time. And you're not getting like a consistent, I get paid this much every single week. That doesn't happen. So you really have to be comfortable with volatility, and that goes for social media as well, especially. Relationships wise, what do you think about age gaps in relationships? How much gap is acceptable / fine in general? That's a pretty difficult question to answer. I've had this discussion with friends before and it seems to be like problematic, especially around for example, if there was an 18-year-old dating someone my age, that gap in your 30s or 40s or 50s plus, not a big deal. But that gap around like 18, 19, 20, you are developing so many things around that age. A brain, I realize this sounds super condescending in hindsight, but what I meant was that your brain like physically does not finish developing until you're like 25. Not that 18-year-olds don't have brains. Social awareness within relationships, emotional intelligence, maturity, and ability to not be manipulated or taken advantage of. All of those things aren't usually developed at age 18. It's so easy and so common for men, especially in their like late 20s and older, to go after teenagers. They don't generally have much life experience, quite easy to manipulate, easy to keep in a toxic relationship. So in those instances, it's quite problematic. I do know of relationships with pretty much that exact age gap around that age that are fine, but in general, it can be a bit of a problem. I think the gap in numbers is not so important. Like you can't be like, oh, 5 years is fine, but 10 years is not. It depends on where the gap is occurring. Is it occurring when someone's a teenager? Is it occurring in their early 20s and the other person is 40? Like, what is it? And obviously with legalities going any lower than the age of consent is an issue in itself. I don't think I should have to say that. So what you should really be looking out for is the temperament and the type of person that the older person generally is. Like, are they looking to take advantage? The motive is much more important than the actual number gap, is what I'm trying to say. But if you are like in that age group, 17, 18, 19, 20, I would just say be wary of people who are much older than you and are wanting to get into relationships. And if they're sitting there being like, well, you're so mature for your age and that's why it doesn't matter, run. Just run. I didn't even answer the last part of the questions. Personal, have you ever cut off someone, and should I cut off my parents? They're so toxic and homophobic. Oh, yep, I have definitely cut people off, but should you cut off your parents? Absolutely not a question for me. I would for sure, if possible, ask a therapist about that, because there's obviously so many ins and outs and details and whatnot. I don't think I can responsibly answer that question. I think that's a question for someone that's more involved in the nuances of that situation. For sure, talk to a mediator, a therapist, someone close to you. How do you deal with negative emotions when you're feeling low, and does it affect your relationships with the people in your life? I do a variety of helpful and unhelpful things. Does it affect the relationships with the people in your life? Absolutely. If I'm in a bad mood, that's going to affect anyone that that I come in contact with, whether I'm making it their problem or not. Just my vibe would be different, you know? How do I deal with negative emotions? Usually I will often, if I'm able to, try to work. I fucking hate filming in those moods, but I'm happy to edit because it's like a tedious sort of, don't have to think too hard task, but it uses up my focus and attention enough to distract me a little bit. Sometimes go surfing, go for a little nature walk in the rainforest or something like that. I'll play guitar, often like try and learn songs, just anything that's gonna like take my focus and put it on something else. You know, I'll try and talk to friends about it or hang out with friends. That's really helpful too. But sometimes I do just mope around and do nothing. I don't get any work done. I avoid all of my friends. I don't eat properly, or I just binge eat crap food. So even at my big age, I don't always balance that properly, and sometimes I use negative coping mechanisms, but it's all a process. How do you juggle social life and YouTube socializing at the same time? How do your friends react to you being a YouTuber? Pretty much all of the friends that I have are not people that consume YouTube regularly. I feel like my mates are pretty active on Instagram. They'll watch TikTok. Like, they used to watch YouTubers, but they're not really like in the thick of YouTube, so they don't give a shit at all. My YouTubing doesn't come up pretty much ever in my friendship circles. I don't really talk about it. They don't really bring it up unless I've like posted something on Instagram, like playing guitar, or I've made something cool, then sometimes I'll talk about it. What was the rest of that? How do you juggle social life and YouTube? I am, once again, it's a constant process of trying to balance everything. I feel like the balance of like socializing and hanging out with friends and looking after my health and doing YouTube and doing Rift as well, my whole life is consumed by attempting to find a balance between those things, and almost always leaning more one way than the other. Like, oh, I've gone out a bit too much, I've been socializing a bit too much, or I've done this a bit too much, or I'm too focused on one thing and not the rest. I will let you know when I feel calm and at peace with that balance. How do you find your one true career pathway when you're lost in so many different ones? I don't think necessarily that everyone has like a one true career pathway, that if they do it they'll just be happy and fulfilled. There's so much shit you can do for work now that I think jumping into one thing and that being your thing forever is so unlikely. Generally, as a person, like coming into the workforce, you have a good idea of what your interests are, things you enjoy doing. Are you into photography? Are you into writing? Are you more analytical? Are you a numbers person? Like, you know what your thing is. So look into that, find a career that may relate to that, and give it a go. I don't think there's anything wrong with just trying things, you know? I went to uni for business and design, and at uni, loved business, didn't really like design once I got there. When I left uni, I got a job in digital marketing. I was really into the work, but the company kind of was just run like shit, so I ended up doing what I'm still doing. And conveniently enough, like what I currently do is a mix of business and design. So, but look to where your interests are. That might be a good place to start. From one fossil to another, how do you keep a healthy work schedule? I don't. I absolutely do not. I'm in this studio until 11 p.m. sometimes. Sometimes I'll walk in and won't leave for 12 hours. I sit here working and forget to eat. Pretty much every weekend I come into work because I feel like I can't leave it at work, because it's not like a job where you like clock in, you do your job and then you leave and that's your free time. When you run a business, it's kind of like all the time. When I'm doing other things that are just purely recreational, I feel a little bit guilty because I'm like, I should be at work, working, making a video, doing whatever. I don't know. I don't have the answer for you. This is a serious one. How do you stay organized and motivated when you have a lot to do? From a stressed college student. I was terrible at this at uni. My time management, even now, is not awesome. Struggle to stay organized. Like, come on, there's boxes fucking everywhere. You should see what's in front of me. I'm not always onto it. Motivation though. Motivation, I think I'm not too bad at. And that is because a few years ago, I either watched a video, read something, I don't remember, but something clicked in my head that I was like, the common sort of discourse around motivation is that you have to wait until you're motivated, or you have to find motivation, or like the wording is always around like it's this mystical thing that exists over here, and when it comes to you, when you find it, then you can work at peak efficiency. But actually, like, notice and think of the times that you feel motivated. Oftentimes it comes to you after you start a task. And I would argue that a lot of the time what we think of as feeling motivated is actually feeling inspired. Let me try and explain what I mean. So I can be sitting here completely unmotivated, not wanting to do work, but oftentimes if you start, if that's writing an assignment, if you write the first paragraph, if you just write the intro, if it's for me, if I manage to edit like a minute of a video, then generally I can sit there and edit the rest of it. It's not that after that paragraph or after that minute I've suddenly found motivation. Motivation has just decided to come visit. It's often just a momentum thing. Like, you've started, you might as well keep going, and that momentum grows motivation in a weird way. So I can sit there, not want to work, get a little bit done and be like, okay, this is not that bad, so let's just keep going. Or I can sit here and be like, I'm ready to work, I'm good to work, I'm actually excited about what I'm going to do. A lot of people call that motivation. I think that's just inspiration. Like, you just feel inspired to start something, and once you start, it's the same thing. The momentum just turns into like motivation. This is a pretty unnecessarily long way of me saying that although people think that your ability to accomplish a goal depends on your intrinsic level of motivation at the time, I think motivation comes once you start doing the thing that leads towards the goal. I think the idea that to start things you need motivation in order to do it successfully is a myth. I don't think that's a thing. I don't think that there are more motivated people and less motivated people. I really don't believe that at all. I think there is just people who are good at starting a task, whether or not they feel like it, and people who are not good at starting a task if they don't feel like it. So to answer the question, how to stay motivated, how to get motivated, just start, even if you don't feel like it. That's literally it. That's the secret. Done and dusted, throw out your self-help books. So that's motivation, easy as, but how to stay organized and time manage, you are asking the wrong bitch. Best relationship advice you've ever received from someone? God damn. I don't even know who told me this. I think it's just ambient advice that has been repeated in my family, but it's to be quick to listen and slow to speak, whether that's in relationships or just life in general. And I think that's great advice because the world at large generally needs your empathy and your attention more than it needs your opinion, if that makes sense. Do I remember that advice when I should? Oftentimes no. Learning curve. It's all a learning curve. How to cope with the embarrassment of being a beginner surfer. I'm not like good at surfing by any measure. I think surfing is just such a public way to learn how to do something, and it's not super intuitive if you haven't done it since you were a kid. I started learning in like uni, so not intuitive to me at all. But yeah, everyone can see you. It's kind of awkward. If you bail, like if you eat shit, you like really eat shit. You think it's so embarrassing because you're stuffing up and people are watching around. Truly no one gives a shit. Everyone's out there looking for their own wave, having their own fun, doing their own thing. Very few people actually give a fuck about you stacking on your board, is something I came to realize, because I'm not sitting there watching beginners learn and judging them for it. Most people aren't. And if you do eat shit and someone is watching and they do have a laugh, then who gives a shit, you know? Everyone's been there. Everyone's been there. What was the hardest thing about growing up and becoming an adult? Example, moving out, life changes, learning new things. I think when I finished uni and I was like set out into the world as an adult, even though I had been living out of home like throughout uni, it kind of one day, I don't know when, hit me like a ton of bricks that I'm like, oh, all the decisions I make, I'm making them and they affect my life, and my parents aren't helping me with it generally unless I ask, and any consequences from those actions are going to affect me and the course of the rest of my whole life. Shit, you know? So that set in quite a distinct brand of panic for a while. So I was just like, I'm not ready to be an adult. I have no idea what is going on. I don't know how to do any of this shit. I don't know what path I want to take. I have no idea. Everyone has that moment. Some people have that moment over and over and over and over, and that's fine. But I think coming to terms with my own responsibility for my life was the most difficult thing. Moving out was sad at first, but like exciting at the same time, so not really a problem. The realization that I'm getting older and that my life is like really rolling now, you know, and I'm on my own with that and I have to make my own decisions. The weight of that realization is what got me the most. And then learning things that you just can't really be taught, like friendship problems, relationship problems, financial things, even stuff like, yeah, starting a career, starting a business, learning things about motivation, learning things about self-control. Like it's a lot. It's a lot. Doesn't feel like a lot, but looking back, I'm like, yeah, shit, there's a lot going on there. We're doing all right. Everyone's okay. I get so fucking angry when I see people become successful or see them reach their peak levels in life. What should I do? I think this is probably a more common feeling than people would like to admit. With that being said, it's very clearly unhealthy. Not unhealthy in the sense of like, this is unhealthy and you're a bad person. Unhealthy because it's just clearly not a positive influence on your life to feel that way. But what I have learned is that whenever I feel jealous of someone, it is obviously because they have something that I would like and I don't have. So just by looking at this, it seems like you don't feel successful or you're not where you would like to be at in terms of whatever you define as success. So seeing other people reach that makes you angry, which is a normal human response to have, but not a helpful one. So the way to address that is just to like take steps every day to make sure you're getting closer and closer to your goals of what you think success is and what you want for yourself. Because if you felt like really engrossed in your goals and like you were making progress and you're doing good, that kind of angry jealousy doesn't happen as much, if at all. So I want to become a great YouTuber just like you. Thank you. That's very sweet. Sounds great and all, but I don't even know how I should even start. I'm too broke for a camera. I don't know jack shit about editing and I don't know if I'm that interested to begin with. A couple of questions we need to answer. If you've got a phone, you've got a camera, generally. If you're just starting out, that's all you need. Editing wise, I don't even have a video editing app on my phone, but I know there are some great ones. So if you've got a phone, equipment wise, you're all good to start out. Phone cameras are pretty decent these days, and that's more than enough for you to like take a step into the YouTubing world. See if you like editing, see if you like filming, see if you're even interested at all, like you said. But the only thing you can really do is start. Seems to be a common theme in this video. With YouTube in particular, like it's very likely you're not going to see results for a long time unless you're like super consistent, are talking about things people want to hear about, know someone who's a famous YouTuber, I guess, and have collab with them somehow. Some people start and have a video completely blow up and they're sorted, but like that doesn't happen for most people. So just be prepared for the never-ending grind that may not have any discernible rewards for a long time. YouTubing, like content creation, YouTube, all of it is the ultimate test in being motivated, or like just getting used to starting things even if you don't want to, and even if there's no like reward really at the end of it. So get your phone, find a topic, talk about something, film something, and just start. That's the only advice I can really give. What does this, I don't even know what this means. How is your tan so damn sick till it gets to the inside of your hands? People's hands don't tan. Like, I kind of get what you mean, but like, even if I had black skin, your palms are not black. Your palms are always way lighter. What do you mean? If you could give any advice to an 18-year-old, what would it be and why? Just do everything. Do absolutely everything. You're 18. If I could give myself that advice again when I'm 18, I would. I did do quite a lot of things though, so, and I'm still giving myself that advice now, and I would give it to anyone in their 20s at all, is just do it within reason. Try new things, try new experiences, be open to things. There's no other point in your life really where you're so readily forgiven for doing dumb shit or doing things that have a horrible outcome. When you're 18, no one expects you to have it together. No one expects you to do the right thing all of the time. Even in your 20s as a whole, perfect time to try shit and fuck up and have it end badly and learn from it, you know? So just do everything. Also, hangovers, nowhere near as bad when you're 18. Although they're still not terrible now, and everyone's like, well, when you're past 25, they get really, really bad. I don't know. I disagree, but I might eat my words soon. Be honest, tell us how much baby Brianne's dreams have changed. Is 18-year-old Brianne stuck with real world grief? Also, what is your biggest regret growing up? Jesus Christ. Also, happy birthday, man. That was heavy, bro. How have my dreams changed? I don't actually remember what I wanted to be when I was younger. I think I wanted to be an artist, as in I liked painting when I was really young. At some point, apparently, I wanted to become like a marine biologist. I truly have no idea where that came from. In high school, I was like, I could probably be a lawyer. I loved legal studies. I do think law in general is very interesting, but so fucking dry, so fucking dry. And I need creative outlets a bit too much for that. But I don't think I ever had like a thing that I was like, this is what I want to be and this is where I'm headed. Never really. I kind of just like naturally ended up doing what I'm doing now, and I'm really happy with it. All I really wanted was to be like financially stable enough to do cool things when I want to do them and have a job that I don't hate going to. So I have blitzed that with flying colors. I've been incredibly fortunate in that regard because I do love what I do. I'm proud of the job that I have, and it is flexible. I do get to, like, if I want to go on a little holiday or a trip or whatever, I can either combine that with work or not have to ring up my boss and ask for time off. Like, that's, so I think I did actually tick that one off. Is 18-year-old Brianne struck with real world grief? Who isn't, mate? That you cannot have been alive in 2020, 2021 and not be struck with real world grief. In so many ways, the world is just going down the absolute toilet, but in so many ways it's improving. So yes, but not in a debilitating sense. What is your biggest regret growing up? I'm not gonna say I have no regrets. I'm sure if I thought about it for a long time, there are some. I think in light of like the pandemic and the borders shutting and all that, I could have gone like traveling more. I've never really like been on a big trip by myself or anything like that. I kind of stayed put, and I was like, I'm gonna put all of my time and energy into my work, into YouTube, into Rift. That's the path I chose, and I was like, when I'm like a little bit older, I can go travel. And then when I got to that point, I booked my tickets, had my flights booked, was gonna head on over, and then the pandemic happened and the borders were shut like a month or two before we were supposed to leave. So if I had a crystal ball, I probably would have tried to go traveling earlier, but it's not something that I can't still do, and I'm happy that I have had the time to grow the job that I now have. There's like so many things I would do differently if I had the hindsight that I did now, but it's not something I regret. Once you left school, did you feel like a part of you was missing? Holy shit. I remember there being a point after I graduated that I realized I'm like, I'm not gonna see most of my friends anymore. The people I see every single day, I'm not gonna see. Maybe I won't see ever again, and some of them I haven't. Or maybe I'll only see them once a year. Maybe I'll only see them every few years. And that was all true. People I was super, super, super close with, I completely lost contact with. Some people I am still in contact with. Some people I see them and it's like nothing's ever changed. Actually, most of them it's like that. So I had that realization once school ended. I was like, fuck, this is gonna happen. Like, this is happening now. But I wouldn't say I felt like a part of me was missing. I just felt like a weird nostalgia that hadn't happened yet. How do taxes work? Not a question for me. That is what my accountant is for. I don't do that. This is the best comment I've read today. Thank you very much. And I'm 22 now, as we've all heard. So happy birthday. And if you can't water those plants, just get a cactus for fuck's sake. And please do more dash cam fails. I completely forgot about the dash cam video. I just might. Fuck you. My plants are doing fine. Oh, they're doing. Oh, they're definitely here. They're alive. Like, fine. Yeah, I might fucking get a cactus, all right? All right, that is all for my sage advice, wisdom fest. Whatever. If you want more of these, I'm happy to do more. I don't have the best advice in the world, but I do have a lot to say. So thanks to everyone who's become a member of my channel though. The shout out for this video goes to Stephen Pierre, who's been a member for 2 months. Thank you. I'm gonna go eat a whole tub of olives because I'm an adult and that's allowed.